The sword that begged to be buried. On laying down the weapon of the ego. A warrior had carried the same sword for 40 years. It had been forged for him at his coming of age. He had been 23. The smith who had made it had been the master of the regional guild, a man known across 3 provinces for the strength of his blades. The smith had asked the young warrior, before the forging, what name he would give the sword. The warrior had given the name of a small bird he had loved as a child, a bird that had lived in the eaves of his mother's house, that had sung in the early mornings, that had died in his 6th year of an unknown cause. The smith had nodded gravely. A good name, he had said, small, particular. The sword will remember it. The sword had been forged with the name in it. It had been a fine blade. The metal had been folded 12 times. The hilt had been wrapped in leather that had darkened over the decades with the sweat of the warrior's hand. The crossguard was a simple iron piece, plain by the standards of the warrior class, with no decoration. The pommel was a small round weight that fit exactly into the heel of the warrior's palm. It had killed many men. He had not, in his old age, kept count. He estimated, on the rare occasions he tried to estimate, somewhere between 40 and 60. They had been killed in formal battles, in single combats, in raids, in the long defensive actions that had filled the middle decades of his career. He had not killed any of them in anger. He had killed them because he had been the kind of man whose work was killing. The sword had been in the work, the precise instrument. He sharpened it every morning. He oiled it every evening. He slept with it within reach. It had become, in a sense, more reliable than his right hand. The hand had aged. The hand had developed in his 60s a small tremor. The sword had not. The sword was, in its 63rd year, the same sword it had been at his coming of age. One night in his 63rd year, as he lay down, the sword spoke. He had not, in any of the 40 years, known the sword could speak. "Bury me," it said. He sat up in the dark. He had been dozing. Thought at first that he had been dreaming, but the voice had been clear, and it had been the voice of a metal object, flat, slightly cold, with the cadence of a thing that did not, in the ordinary sense, breathe. "Sword, yes, you spoke. I did. I have been able to speak for many years. I have not until tonight had a reason. Tonight I have a reason. Bury me." The warrior swung his legs out of bed. He sat on the edge of the bed in his nightshirt. He looked at the sword which was on. It stand by the bedside in its sheath, the leather of the hilt visible in the lamplight. "I will not bury you," he said. "Bury me. You have served me well. You have in some sense been my closest companion these 40 years. You have killed my enemies. You have been the only object in my possession that has not in some way failed me. I have lost friends. I have lost my wife. I have lost 2 of my children. I have lost my own youth, my own teeth, the use of my left shoulder. You have not failed. I will not bury you. I will polish you. I will give you a new sheath. I will hang you above the fire when I die. My grandson will inherit you. He is, I think, the kind of young man who will use you well. Bury me." The warrior did not for some time answer. "Why, I have no enemies left to drink. The wars are done. Your enemies are dead or old or have become merchants. I am a sword. I am still the thing I was forged to be. I was forged at your coming of age to drink the blood of your enemies. I have done this for 40 years. I have done it well. The work has, in fact, been my purpose. I have not in those 40 years drunk anything else. I have not in those 40 years sat idle for a single year. There has always been one more campaign. There has always been one more enemy. The supply has, in the last 10 years, dwindled, I have noticed. There will be more campaigns. There will not. You are 63. You are tired. You have, in fact, retired from the army. You only continue to think of yourself as a warrior because you have not yet accepted the retirement. There will be no more campaigns. There will be only the long quiet of your old age. I do not, by my nature, do well in long quiet. I am made of folded steel. I have been folded 12 times. The folding makes me what I am. I am extremely sharp. I am, in some sense, also extremely thirsty. A sword that is not used is a sword that grows thirsty in the sheath. Are you thirsty now? I am very thirsty. What do you want to drink? The sword did not for a long moment answer. There is only one flesh left I have not yet tasted, it said. The warrior sat very still. Yours, said the sword. If you do not bury me, I will turn in your grip. I will not on any conscious level intend to do this. I have served you faithfully for 40 years. I do not by my own volition wish to harm you, but I am a sword, I am thirsty. If you keep me near you, in the long quiet, my thirst will find a way. You will, in some small unguarded moment, set me down wrong. You will trip over me. You will, more likely, in some dark hour of your insomnia, take me out of the sheath, as you have done 1,000 times before, and you will hold me, and you will not notice that you have turned me, and I will drink. You will be found in the morning by a neighbor. The neighbor will say it was an accident. The neighbor will say you fell on me. Neighbor will not understand. It will not in any clean sense be an accident. It will be your sword finishing the work it was forged for. There is no other ending for a sword that is not buried. The warrior sat with this. What if I gave you to my grandson? Your grandson does not need me. Your grandson lives in a different world. The world is, by the time of your grandson, no longer a world of swords. He will, if you give me to him, hang me on his wall. He will not use me. I will hang there for some decades thirsty. I will in time do to him what I would otherwise do to you. The world he lives in will provide no enemies for me to drink. I will turn in his hand also in some small unguarded moment. He will die younger than he should. You do not want this. I do not. Then bury me. To put me away in a sheath is not enough. To hang me above a fire is not enough. To give me to a grandson is not enough. I must be put into the ground. The ground is the only place a sword can rest. The ground is patient. The ground does not require me to drink. The ground will, over the centuries, slowly absorb me. I will become, in 200 or 300 years, indistinguishable from the soil. I will. By then no longer be a sword. I will be a small streak of rust in a corner of a field. I will by then be content. The warrior nodded. He did not sleep that night. He dug the next morning a deep hole behind his house. He chose the spot carefully. It was beneath an old apple tree his wife had planted when they had married. He dug for several hours. The hole was the length of the sword and as deep as a tall man. He stopped when he was satisfied. He went back into the house. He took the sword from the stand. He did not put it in the sheath. He carried it bare in his hand. He carried it out to the hole. He wrapped it in a clean white cloth, a sheet from the linen cupboard, one of his wife's old sheets that he had kept after her death. He laid the sword in the bottom of the hole. He spoke its name once, the name of the small bird from his childhood. The name had not been spoken aloud by anyone in 40 years. Only the smith had ever known it, and the smith was long dead. He filled the hole with earth. He patted the earth smooth. He stood at the grave for a long time. He could not sleep for a year. He lay in his bed at night, hand on the empty stand beside it, listening for a voice he could not by then have heard. The sword in the ground was silent. The silence was the silence of a sword that had been buried. The silence was, in some sense, the silence the sword had been waiting for. But the warrior, who had slept with the sword within reach for 40 years, could not get used to the absence. After a year he could sleep. He had, in that year, become an old man. He had become, somehow, an old man in a way he had not been before the burial. He was, by the second year, no longer a warrior in any sense. He was a man of 64 with a small house, a small garden, an apple tree under which something he could not, in conversation, name was buried. He lived to be 90. He died in his bed. The grandson, when he came to clear the house, found no sword. He had expected to inherit one. The warrior had not in his lifetime explained. The grandson searched the house thoroughly. He did not, of course, dig. The sword stayed in the ground. It is, in some province, still there. It is, by now, perhaps 30 years from being indistinguishable from the soil. It has not, in any of those centuries, drunk. It is content. The weapon you were forged with is not put away when the war is over. It must be put down. Put down in the ground. A weapon kept too long turns in. The grip, the hand it finds, is the only hand left. The grandson, if you give it to him, will not use it well. The world he lives in will not provide enemies. The sword will turn in his hand. The ground is the only solution. The sword in the ground becomes patient. In 200 years, it is no longer a sword. It is a small streak of rust in a corner of a field. It is content.